Catus, Maximus here. This time I'm going to do a quick teardown of this Shimano SL-S500 internal hub Alfine shifter. These things are kind of interesting inside. One user in my previous video about my failure of my Alfine hub had mentioned they had troubles with these shifters, so might as well take it apart and take a look at what's inside and just kind of see the mechanics in there. One thing to note when it comes to the internal hubs, what is interesting is, at least with these Shimano shifters, is on standard derailleur systems with these quick lever type shifters, when you push the lever, it actually makes you go slower, goes into larger and larger gears so you can climb hills. It works just the opposite on one of these where you push it, and this is actually making the bike go faster and faster. It's kind of interesting. Although I believe that you can technically use one of these with a derailleur because the cable pull spacing is the same, but that may not entirely be the case. One of the things they do here on these shifters is they have a little plastic cap, which I believe is just to make it easier to get at the little cable that's in there. So we have a little plastic cap, pops out, and now you can just pop the cable in and out pretty easily. So that was one intelligent thing that Shimano has done, is just made it pretty simple to be able to pop that cable and replace it. I was fiddling with the cable and Tiny came and decided to visit. So when I was having issues with this particular shifter, all I did was undo this little bottom screw and this bottom cover and sprayed some oil in there, and it seemed to resolve the issue that it had where it was just skipping, not being able to ratchet and shift properly. And we can see inside here there's the first part of the mechanics that are in there. There's our ratchets and then back. So as we ratchet, you can see how it ratchets that cable over each of the specific notches, and when you release, it just releases this back. Although it's relying on the spring tension in the hub, but it does have an additional spring in here. Let's pull off these other two screws here. Here's our cable tensioner, and it just has a threaded bung in there, so when you unscrew or screw it in, it just moves this in and out to adjust the overall length of the cable, and you'd want to just pop that out. It does have a little spring on it there, just to keep it from, or attempt to keep it from rattling loose. What we see here is inside there's our other side of the cam, so as we shift, it goes up each of the notches. As we go down, it goes down. So the little window, it's pretty easy. These two screws just pop this thing off. This could be popped off just while it's installed on the bike if you have any trouble with the window, and it's its own separate assembly. And then it's just a little rod here that connects to the needle, and that's how you get your little display. Two little screws and this little cover will pop off. And then here's our mechanism. It's not very complicated. It's just a little piece of plastic with a little nub that connects onto this. Surprisingly, there's a little spring in there to try to help it return. And then this is the dial needle. If you want to see a complex stamped and bent piece of wire, this is it. Look at the complexity of the shape. This is big stamping, and then they have to bend it and then give it a certain special curve. So probably a surprisingly expensive little part just because of all the work that has to go in that little thing. And then of course here's our really tiny little return spring. And here's the housing cover. It did have a little screw that was kind of hidden under the lever. What's interesting about this design is that essentially, besides the forward part, you can actually take off this cover and the bottom cover that was on it, and actually if you wanted to, you could run this on your bicycle just like this without actually having the housing on it, and it could become a skeletal version. You can see that the nut that they have it pre-tensioned, and then they use a special washer that integrates into the holes, and they just bend these tabs over to prevent the nut from getting loose, and then they paint over it just so you can see if it's getting loose. Here's our little ratchet mechanism. It's actually pretty simple, so when these have issues, it's probably just because this little ratchet pawl is not returning properly, but it just, like so, just like any other kind of ratchet mechanism, whether it's a ratchet, more or less like a hand tool ratchet, or say more similar to the type of ratchet mechanisms that you would find on an arbor press. Looks like the rest of this is just held together by this little nut here, so let me bend those tabs back and let's get the rest of this apart. The trick to getting these loose is just I use a scribe because it's a little bit stronger. It's just to try to get under those tabs and just slowly pry them away. You may have to use a precision screwdriver or even like a nail or something. And you just don't want to bend them too far if you're going to intend on using this or rebuilding it, so you don't fatigue those tabs so you can return them. And oddly enough, I'm getting a little magnetism. Turns out it's my scribe that's magnetized. Alright, we got that little 8mm nut loose. It was not very tight at all, which would make sense. Here's our little lock washer, and see it has two little tabs that sit into these two holes here, and that's what prevents the washer itself from rotating and actually acting as a lock. Of course, using this type of system is pretty common. Lots of machinery equipment, oftentimes on automotive axles, they'll use the same type of deal here. So let's start to get this apart. We have this little plate which sits right on this little cam here, but it's the plate wouldn't matter really if you had it one way or the other. Then we have our lever, which actually has here is the ratchet pawl itself, just a little clock spring on there. Let's see if I can't. I see there's a tiny little E-clip that holds that on. And there's a look at the little parts here. We just have this odd spring that just goes around here and catches on the bottom of the lever, presses on the side of the pawl, and a little E-clip to hold it all together. A bunch of tiny little parts there. A little bit greasy, but I did oil this. Here's our primary clock spring that returns the lever. We can see it's actually a pretty thick square cross-section spring. Definitely a pretty stout spring, excuse me. Continuing on, we have a little washer that goes in between the two levers. The one, it helps align it, and two, it helps keep them separated. Definitely quite a bit of engineering in here. And that's what always confused me about these, is we can actually, and this makes it a little more clear, we have two more ratchet pawls, and there are the two gears. So when you're doing the lever, it uses its ratchet pawl to ratchet it over, and then there's a secondary pawl here that holds it, and then when you're going down, it uses a different pawl to give you those individual or independent stops, and all that's held together by another tiny little E-clip. As soon as we get that little E-clip off of there, this next plate can slowly work its way off, and then this is, I guess, the intermediate plate, and now we can see our ratchet pawls, which are steel pawls integrated onto a nylon cable pole or cable rack. I'm not exactly sure what this piece is supposed to be called, but it makes it lighter weight, and I suppose due to the nature of the design, the system, you don't have to worry too much about a lot of wear on this, so it's okay that it's nylon, but it would have been nice to see it as being cast metal. But once again, when it comes to bicycles, weight's a big concern, and so that's probably why they went with plastic. Plus, it's pretty reliable. Now let's see if we can't get these little ratchet gears off of here. There we go, there's one of them. And we'll get its associated pawl off of there. There it is. There's a little shim washer in between these two just to give them some separation. And then here is our second. I may have to get a little screwdriver to get that off. Alright, got this little guy off. Then we have, if I can get the rest of this ratchet pawl and mechanism off of there. There's our other ratchet pawl. Then we can pull off the actual cable stay. It has its own integrated clock spring here, which is not super cooperative. Now it comes out. There's that mechanism. Here's our other large, pretty heavy duty square cross section spring for the pawls. And then there's our sleeve and there's a guide post. There's our sleeve, and then here is our base plate. And you can see the whole rod has just been pressed into the aluminum casting. And you pop that out, and this is what we have. As you can see here on the table, it is amazing how many little parts are actually inside this. But that's one of the reasons I did do this teardown, is because almost no information on this type of stuff. and being able to just to have a video, even, you know, not very good quality like mine, just being able to see this, tear it apart, see all the little aspects, see how these pawls, they actually had a little separation washer in between the pawls. And so that's what makes these kind of difficult to take apart and put back together, is just having a really good idea of the order operations and which way the parts came disassembled so you can put them back. And yeah, it is complicated. Get one of these little pawls backwards or one of these wheels in the wrong position, and of course the shifter doesn't work. So obviously, I mean, quite a bit of effort goes into these systems, and this shifter actually seems okay. It just needs good lubrication so all these little pawls can move properly. But of course, you really like when you can take it down like this and really give it a good cleaning. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.